Here's the differences between the Vello Shutterboss wired intervalometer and the Phottix Aion wireless intervalometer. I think I just named the first one. This one is wired. You see up here, you've got this wire coming out of the top. That means that these are dedicated to particular camera connections. The Phottix Aion is wireless, which means you have a plug up top here, and you also have a wireless unit that comes with it that you can plug various cables into in various cameras. There is a wireless version of the Vello Shutterboss that has that same feature, but it comes with one dedicated wire for a particular camera type. The Phottix Aion comes as a kit with practically everything you need for most popular camera types. Second up, you'll notice that in the digits here, the Vello has whole seconds. The Phottix Aion has tenths of a second. Now you might ask, why should I care about that? In night photography, it's become very popular to take pictures of the Milky Way and to get star points and to do star point stacking. Using the MPF calculation, you're going to get numbers that are not whole numbers like this. You're going to get numbers that are fractions of a number. The Phottix Aion can let you get the maximum exposure time, even if it's a tenth of a second in there. You have to round downwards with the Vello. So if you care about that, the Phottix Aion is clearly a win. The Vello Shutterboss, it only has this screen in the menus. The Phottix Aion has some other screens for daylight photography, I like to call it. Single, continuous, bulb, a delay, and then back to the top. And this button happens to be in the same place as the backlight button. So if you're used to using a Vello, you might hit this by accident and switch to a mode that you don't want. That's the only disadvantage that I've really found so far. And that's just retraining my fingers how to do that. The backlight button is here for this guy. The backlight button is here for this one. They both turn on for 10 seconds and then turn off, which is not ideal, but it's better than not having a backlight. Both of these have the same feature where if you press and hold the start stop button, it'll turn off. And same thing to turn it on, press and hold. It looks like the Phottix has a little bit faster of a shutdown boot time. That's great. And then this is the start stop button, right? This is the on off button. So I misspoke before. This is the start stop button. So having these two separated, I think is an advantage. So now you just, when you're in the dark, you go from the middle of the crosspad down and over. This is start and stop, down and over, and this is that. And you don't need to touch the buttons that are up near the top of the screen. That's how I train myself. The next most important thing to look at is the crosspad. This is how we make our changes. Huge difference. This crosspad I've seen so many people be frustrated with, because if you press in an oblique direction, like a diagonal, you don't know whether it's going to choose the up direction or the sideways direction. And watch this. Which way did it go? It went up. I thought I was going sideways, but I went up. So finding that exact, it's hard to feel these bumps in the dark to know whether you're going sideways or not. This is clearly an improvement in that these buttons are separated. This is awesome. Thank you, Phottix. Both of them do the same thing where you press and hold in the center to make adjustments, then go up or down, and then hit the button to lock it in. So no change there. The big buttons that you see here, there is a big difference here. The Phottix, I haven't tried this yet. I know for sure that the Vello, if your battery runs out, you can still use this button to activate your shutter in an emergency. The emergency being you have no AAA batteries, right? The Phottix does something cool though. If you half press this button instead of pressing it all the way, you see how the light up here goes red or green first? That's the same thing as half pressing your shutter button on your camera. So you can focus by doing that and then press it all the way to make the exposure. So that's an interesting way to focus. If you held this in your hand because it's wireless and you stood in front of your camera with a flashlight and then half press this, you can then focus on yourself. And I think that that's a major advantage that you can't do with a wired intervalometer. Now, of course, this does have a port up top here, which allows you to plug directly into the camera, which this has it dedicated, right? This one you can't take off, but it's also the Achilles heel of this intervalometer. This cord safety feature here, the stress relief it's called in the mold, this is the part that gets bent the most as you put it in, take it out of your bag or hang it off of your tripod or your camera, and that's where the major fail point. This is where it always breaks. We've seen it on dozens of workshops where somebody will walk up to us with tears in their eyes saying my intervalometer doesn't work, and 9 times out of 10 that's what happened, was this cable connection here broke the soldering inside or something. I think that this is an advantage using a wireless intervalometer now, because if you make a habit of always unplugging the cable from this or unplugging the cable from the wireless receiver, you're not going to damage the cable, and you have much less of a chance of that being an issue. One other thing I'd like to add is this. This red light can cause trouble when it's hanging off of your camera. If it's pointing in the wrong direction, such as forward of your camera, it can cause red bleed, which is very hard to change in your photos. This unit would be carried around with you, of course. So when I'm using the wireless one, I just cover it up with a little bit of tape. And that's the same thing I do when I have the wired one here. So no matter which one you use, you still have to do some light damage control by covering up the indicator light that's on while you're shooting. Okay, well that wraps it up for my overview of why I believe the Phottix Aion is superior to wired intervalometers. I hope you check it out and consider it. It's a fantastic choice. Have a great day. Hit the like button and subscribe. See you next time.